All right, friends. Thanks for joining us today. It is 3:30 in the afternoon, Wednesday. In case you need to know what day of the week it is Wednesday, May 20th, 2020. I just want to welcome you to our session today. We're talking about 5 things to support remote learning or online learning. So again, welcome to our session today, and we're bringing on our panelists today. Yesterday, we had a really super exciting show today, or yesterday we talked with secondary teachers, middle school and high school. Today, we're bringing some fantastic elementary folks on board today. So I want to welcome you to our session today. With that being said, Katie, if you wouldn't mind going to the next slide, we'll go ahead and introduce what we're talking about today.
Awesome. It is. And my love of technology is giving us a delay.
That's okay. That's a moment. There we go. Sweet. Oh, one more. Second. All right. Let's go to
the panelists.
No, go to the 5 things.
Yeah, this was updated before. Just a moment. Apologies.
That's all right. Anyways, again, thank you for hanging out with us today. So what we're going to do, we'll make sure that we will put up our Padlet, which we'll all get a chance to see in a few minutes. Today, you might have questions for our panelists. Please, by all means, put those in the chat. We'll also put up there a Padlet link, which, of course, is a great place for us to put our resources. Today, we're talking about 5 things that have to do with supporting online learning. And those 5 things are... Perfect. Yeah. Communication, engagement, feedback, office hours, and teacher reflection. And those 5 things came about definitely doing a lot of communication and research and working with teachers across the country and across the world. I mean, literally connecting with teachers from all over the place. And over again, we kept finding out these thematic or these elements that kept coming up to, the surface. And so basically these 5 elements that you see in front of us are really what we feel like if we could give teachers a framework or some type of guidance as to what we're doing with remote learning or online learning, or as we like to call it now, is crisis teaching. These 5 elements are those highlighted things that we've been hearing and talking about. And we really want to go ahead and give a chance for our panelists to go ahead and share how those 5 things work as far as related to what they're doing in classroom. So that being said, Katie's going to go ahead and introduce. I'll go ahead and go silent. We're going to go ahead and hit record right now. And so we're all live on YouTube and we're also recording.
Hi, everybody, and welcome. We, like Chris said, have a fantastic panelist of teachers for you. My name is Katie White, and I am a district TOSA, and I have a teammate here, Ryan. Ryan, do you want to go ahead and introduce yourself?
Hi, Katie. I'm Ryan Hoxie, district TOSA, working with Katie and Chris and many of the panelists that we have here to speak with us today.
Great,
Let's go ahead and start having our panelists introduce themselves. We'll go ahead and start with Tala.
Hey everyone, my name is Tala Mangur and I teach kindergarten at William Walker Elementary School, and I'm excited to be here today.
Thanks, Tala. And then we have Teresa.
Hi everyone, I'm Teresa Lures. I teach 1st grade at Sato Elementary. Thanks for having me.
Thanks, Teresa. We also have Lisa.
Hi, I'm Lisa Jensen. I teach in a primary social communication classroom at Ridgewood Elementary.
Thank you, Lisa. We also have Madiha.
Hi, everyone. I am Madiha Gizgis. I teach 5th grade at Barnes Elementary. I'm excited to be here.
Thank you, Madiha. We also have Casey.
Hey everybody, I'm Casey Cook and I teach 2nd grade at McKay Elementary. I'm glad to be here.
Thank you, Casey. Glad you're here. We also have Ed.
And I'm going to refresh just a moment, Ryan. We can get Ed's picture up there perhaps. So no, it doesn't want to load. You're a mystery today, Ed, but go ahead and introduce yourself.
That's awfully strange. Hi, everyone. I'm Ed Rodriguez. This is my 22nd year in the Beaverton School District, finishing up year number 22. I teach 3rd grade at Findlay Elementary. I've also taught at Ridgewood and Oak Hills. Glad to be here.
Thanks, Ed. We also have Colin Lang, but unfortunately, I just got a text from him and his car battery has died and he's on the way to the gas station. So we all know how life gets really real, especially at times like this. So we'll welcome Colin as soon as he's able to join us. We have Marissa.
Hi, I'm Marissa Ching. I work at Vos Elementary in kindergarten on the dual language side. And thank you for having me.
Thank you, Marissa. Thanks for being here. We also have Sandra.
I'm Sandra Johnson Moreno. I teach 3rd grade at Vos Elementary, and I'm happy to be here.
Thanks, Sandra. And then we have Yannick as well.
Hi there, I'm Yannick Mesa. I also teach at Vos Elementary, 2nd grade in the dual language program, and I'm glad to be here.
Thank you, Yannick. We're glad you're all here today.
Okay, I'm going to go ahead and advance to our next slide. And our first oh, look, there's Ed. He must have had some special, special transition. So we've got Ed's picture on there now. Okay, on to the next topic. Our first topic, actually, which is communication with students. This is never more important than right now because we don't have the luxury of just popping over to their desk in their classroom or passing them in the hall. So we have some teachers that are going to share on what communication is like right now for online learning for each of them. And this is going to be Yannick and Madiha. And if Colin joins us, then we'll have Colin share as well.
All right. Well, communication for me I thought of it first from the lens of just with families and parents, because from the get-go, you know, it was finding out who had devices at home and what kind of devices and how to help parents and families get connected and how to use Seesaw, how to use Zoom. A lot of that communication had to happen up front before we could get started. And a lot of that was done via phone. That was the most effective way I found to be able to communicate with parents. And they did have my phone number. Many of them have used it multiple times, and it's been helpful. So besides that, with parents, it's been communication through Seesaw and Zoom with students. And it's hit or miss, but some days are better than others. And just trying to keep students engaged.
Thank you.
Thank you. I can go for communication. I think by now I'm able to communicate with most of my students and my parents. At the beginning, I did ask my parents and my students what is the best way to communicate with them. I do have most of my parents on Seesaw, but some of them, they still prefer email. Some of them, they prefer phone calls or texts. So I did try to reach everyone and see what works best for them. When I reach out to my students, another thing that really helped also, or with my parents who were not connected on Zoom or on Seesaw activity, I emphasize the idea that I really miss my students. I'm here to support them and I'm here to help them. I always provide them with some resources we have in our school, like food boxes for the kids and for the families, hotspot for the internet. If they need any support with technology, gift cards from our counselor, because right now really our parents know that their kids are not doing the activities and know they're not really involved in learning, but it is overwhelming for them. So my priority is connecting with my students. Once I connect with the students, that's where I go and help support them with their activities while we are on Zoom. For my ELL students, I try to teach my parents and my co-teacher is a Spanish speaker, so most of the time she's the one who's giving a phone call. I also use Seesaw a lot because luckily the Seesaw, when I send message to the parents, they will see the message in their own language and they will respond to me their own language, and I was able to translate. So that's really a very helpful tool. I try to use Seesaw more because they're able to see the message in their home language. I'm also using my African-American, I'm connecting with my African-American community liaison. She's working with my Somali parents, with my Somali students, where she helps them with homework and assignments, and trying to use the MLD for also reaching some interpreters to connect with my ELL students and with my non-English speaker parents.
Thank you very much. Those are some great ideas and tips. And we also have Casey who's going to jump in on this one for communication.
Yeah, absolutely. And I agreed with what everyone said. It was at first, we were definitely making sure that the kids were connected and had devices. And so most of us at this point, I think have that if we're lucky enough. And so after that, I definitely wanted to maintain my relationships and my communication with the students and the parents as much as I could. So I've offered a lot of Zoom opportunities for that reason, knowing that not all of them would be able to come at, all the time. And so I offer community circles every morning on Zoom at 9 o'clock. And I think that's helped a lot of our families kind of kickstart the day, like, okay, this is kind of your schedule. And now we have like the rest of the day to kind of go through some of the activities and kind of build our schedules off of. I've also done Eat Lunch with a Teacher once a week and invited the rest of our staff, kind of like our specialists and our counselor, our principal, student success coaches to join us whenever. I've had a game time with the kids where they've come in. So a lot of social Zooms, but then tried to do a lot of academic type stuff mixed in with the games and the fun social interactions. And then I've recently been doing a lot more smaller groups so that the kids can actually just start talking to each other and have a blast and share things around. So they've all been really active on Zoom and having those opportunities. I've also, for communication, done a weekly overview of the week and sent it to parents along with any other additional information from the district or our school. And then a daily checklist for the kids. We use Seesaw as well in our second grade classroom. And I actually use Zoom to video record over the daily checklist, like a minute or two, and kind of walk through the steps and activities for the day. And I think that's really, really helped clarify things for parents and made the kids a lot more independent with their tasks. And so it's kind of, that's a big way that I've communicated with them daily.
Thank you. These are some great ideas. That lunch with the students, that's fantastic. Yeah. I'm sure it's a great one for engagement too. Does anyone else have a idea or thought they want to share before we move on to the next topic? Okay, I'm going to take that silence as we're ready to go on. And we are on engagement with students now. I know that, what week are we on? 9 or so? We are so far, 10? We're so far into this now. And this is where we start having to pull out the bag of magic tricks to really get kids to be excited to be in these environments again. Every day, you don't want it to feel like Groundhog Day. We really want to spice this up and start to bring in ideas that help kids feel engaged and connected, because this is about as far away from school as they've ever been. So we have some teachers on our panelists, Lisa, Tala, Yannick, and Madiha, who are going to share their thoughts on this. Who wants to go first?
Unmute. Hi, everyone. So this is, and I'm not sure if you guys can see me. It just shows my name, so I apologize for that. I've tried to troubleshoot, but it's giving me an error message. Anyway, I work with high-functioning autistic kids, and engagement has been, we've had to really work very hard to get kids to engage. We can't assume that kids can transfer attentive skills from the classroom automatically to the computer. And so we have really worked to engage kids and to build norms and build their abilities to be able to access instruction online. So that was kind of the first probably 3 weeks, is just building their ability to be able to look at a camera, to stay still in one location, to note when they are on camera that other people can see everything they do. And so our first point of engagement was just really kind of, I even videotaped the kids on Zoom and then created a PowerPoint with them as the stars of the PowerPoint and showed them what they look like on camera so that they could understand. And then to build engagement, one of the things that I was noticing is when we were on Wednesdays, we meet together in Zoom, and we've been doing some shared writing. And then I will take the shared writing and I will make a book, and then the following Wednesday we come together. The kids bring a book that they've written, and then I share a book with them that we've written together. And one of the things that I was noting is that when I hold up a book, I lose them because they can't really see the pictures, they can't see the writing. And so one of the pieces that platforms that I've been using is I've been using Book Creator, where I can drop the book that we've written together and then put it so that they can see the pictures and they can engage a lot more. So it's just using technology in a way that allows the kids to be able to see the materials, that because if it's behind me, they can't always see it. They can't always be able to access it or read it. And if I'm holding up a book, they have difficulties seeing the pictures. So it's just trying to make sure that as I'm engaging with the kids, that they can have access to whatever content. And then the other thing that I've been really trying to do is to break down in small groups. And that will allow for more targeted instruction rather than just the free-for-all kind of mosh pit where kids are just, excited to see each other, but we really want to make sure that we're giving them opportunities to work on tasks that will help further them along. And so we've been doing small group, targeted groups that are a little tighter structure than just the big Zoom groups. So that's kind of what we've been doing.
I can go next.
Yeah, go ahead. Thank you.
Yes, a lot of what we've been doing also echoes that. A lot of the social type activities, some of what Casey was talking about, the morning meeting type activities, or a daily question of the day. So more of the social type activities is what's been really successful. It has helped keep kids engaged. The Kahoot, the art lessons, the brain break Zoom groups and things like that, it feels like that's kind of what they're craving most of and what they can feel successful at and can do by themselves. All the other more academic type activities is really hit or miss with most of my students. And the easier ones that they can do on their own, like the worksheet type math problems or the read alouds that we do. And this might be something that you might want to try, Lisa. What we've done is taken pictures of books and put them into Google Slides and then uploaded that as an activity, as a read aloud. And then we voice over that in Zoom. So it's quite a process. It takes a little bit, but once you do one or two, you get pretty quick and pretty good at it. But making that into a seesaw activity, the kids can see the words and the pictures and can hear your voice and can hear you reading to them. So those read alouds have been really successful. And, just saying hi to the kids and letting them interact with each other on Zoom. What else? Let's see. I've had all levels of engagement in my class, all levels of, just doing all activities, which is really about 2 or 3 kids. Some of that is parent or sibling really doing most of the activity, to some just being on Zoom, or some just doing a few of the seesaw activities. I've also had some that just want to sing and dance, and record themselves doing that and sharing it with me. And I've also had some that just want to do like a show and tell, or just read a book to me. So at this point, I feel like I'm just engaging with them at all those different levels and just really praising the engagement that I see, no matter what it is, no matter what level of it is. It's some engagement, so I'll take that. And I think that kind of keeps us going.
I can go ahead and share, unless Madiha, did you want it? Sorry, I just saw that you unmuted yourself.
We'll go after you.
Okay. I don't have anything like super formal to kind of gauge engagement, but I was thinking about this and I appreciated that Chris said that this is a crisis and this is crisis schooling. So engagement can look so different. And like Yannick said, also, there's so many different iterations and so many different like levels of engagement. But one thing that I've been doing to center myself in remote learning is really to be gracious with myself and kind to myself and just go slow. So I think that was one strategy that I'm using during remote learning, is just taking that time at the beginning of a Zoom meeting and just checking in with every student, as simple as that sounds, but saying their names, like, hello, so-and-so, how are you, so-and-so, to each and every student. that's something that I've been doing. And then another thing that I think has been helping is centering students' experiences and bringing them back into like recorded lessons. So an example of that is like if a student shared something that they did to regulate themselves, I could bring that experience to the class in a recorded lesson and say like, so-and-so made his own schedule. And that really helps him to know like what's, what to expect from the day. So, and we all know kids just like hearing their names and having that opportunity to kind of to show off in front of their classmates. And then another thing I feel has really helped is just modeling myself, whether it's modeling enthusiasm. I mean, remote learning is exhausting, but if I can show up and just act super excited, and then I think that that's contagious, and that's something that the kids feel, and they can kind of vibe with me if I'm acting silly and fun. And then also, I try my hardest to model vulnerability as well and share times that or strategies that I've used if I'm dysregulated, because this is a very tough time for them. And then the last thing I want to say is, my fourth strategy, I guess, is just to experience joy with them. Like many of you said, I think that's something that they're craving right now. So playing games with them, laughing with them. I just came out of a Zoom session, and for the last 10 minutes, we were giggling about who knows what, but it was just really fun to laugh with them and for them to have an opportunity to laugh and experience joy with each other. So
I can go. Thank you, Tala. I think my ideas are very similar to what everybody have been sharing. But one thing I've been doing also, besides like we all agreed they come more to Zoom more than doing activities. So I'm using that opportunity. Okay, they come to Zooms because they know we are playing games. I do scavenger hunt, and I can share a couple of those slides that I have in Google Slides. Kahoot, Pet Day, dress up your favorite character. We had that, and they had so much fun. Bringing stuffed animals, riddles. They come to Zoom because they know it's fun. It's not overwhelming. They know what to do. What I do, I call names. Okay, if you did not do any work yet, and I do want to mention, I do have my Zoom meetings in the afternoon. So by then I know who did not do the work. I know that those are the students I'm going to focus on. And I invite them over. If you did not do the work, stay with me. We're going to work together. It's okay even if you did not get it. I share my screen as a sample student. They open their screen on Seesaw, and here we are working on the activities together. Within half an hour, they submit their work, and I will get like 10 of those lessons done. I'm a parent myself. My fourth grader, my first grader will not do the work no matter what unless I'm next to them. That really gives me a lot of empathy. I am here a teacher and I have time and I'm staying home, but for my working parents and my families, most of my families are navigating poverty right now. So I do feel a lot of grace and a lot of empathy. So I'm just taking it easy, connection, relationship. For classwork, we will work on this together, and it's been very, very helpful. I would have 17, 18 kids submitting their work by the end of the day, but I do work with them during my office hours. Yeah, I think that's one thing really helped. Thank you.
Wonderful ideas. I think that watching my own children in their classes, I think you have some fantastic ways to engage students. I think we have another idea. Teresa, you have a quick nugget of information you'd like to share?
Yeah, thank you, Katie. So one of the things that I do with my kiddos when I send out assignments is I actually send out all my assignments on Monday morning. And what I've created is I've created a bingo board so that way, especially at first grade, I mean, choice in what they do and when they do it is so important. And because I don't know what family situations are at the moment, I know that sometimes kids are more able to be on devices during some times and other times they're not. So with this bingo board, they get to pick and choose what they want to do when, knowing that by the following Monday, they have to complete all of those activities. So that's my nugget.
And what a great nugget it is, because choice for students is the best way to get engagement. Thank you so much, everybody, for sharing on this. We're going to move on to our topic of feedback. And this is where you get further engagement and more communication with students, because if we don't have feedback, then why are we doing this? How do we move forward without knowing if we're doing what we're doing, and if what we're doing is enough and correct and what we're supposed to be doing? So we have 4 more teachers who are going to share on this, 3, unless Colin has joined us, actually. Do we have Colin yet?
No, Colin is unfortunately not going to be able to join us today.
Okay. Well, we've got Teresa, again, Lisa, and Sandra. So who wants to go first?
I guess I can go ahead and go first.
Thank you.
So as far as feedback, I do use Seesaw with my kiddos. I find that for the most part, the kiddos that are turning in lessons that the district has created and I'm supposed to push out to them, I tend to be doing a lot more of supportive feedback for them, because I find that my kids are not challenging themselves when it's a district created lesson, even though, so in Seesaw, if you're not familiar with Seesaw, you can copy and edit an activity to personalize it a little bit. And so what I do is I always copy and edit any of the district lessons so they see my little picture up there when they open it up. And usually all I'm doing, if anything, is renaming it so it fits our bingo board, and potentially even putting voice instructions if need be. But the kids just do not seem to be really engaging very much with the district created lessons. So I tend to send back a lot of district created lessons that the kids complete. And I give them a lot of supportive feedback and saying, hey, maybe you should go back and read the directions. Or, I noticed that you did this part, but it also asked you to do this part. So, and with my feedback, I always type in my response, and then I also record my voice so that the kids can hear me, both for those auditory learners, for my ESL, ELL second language learners. It helps them too. That's my biggest thing. I think the part that really frustrates me the most are those kids that are not doing lessons on Seesaw, who I've asked to have packets made for. I have no idea what they're doing. I can't provide any feedback for them. And so it really feels like there's a hole right there that I cannot support those learners because I have no idea what they're doing. They're not turning anything in. They're not showing me any of the work that they're doing. So that's my biggest frustration.
All right.
I guess I can go next. As far as feedback goes, I have 28 students. So at the beginning, maybe the first 3-4 weeks when we started with online and remote learning, I had a lot of students turning in assignments, which was great. But I did find myself overwhelmed by the amount of activities that I was getting every day. I was getting around 70 or 80, which is great. But at the same time, I felt the need to make a comment and provide feedback for every student, which by then it was too much. So I ended up, of course, just making sure that I provide productive feedback to the students that needed it the most. So that's where I am right now, because I'm very excited that my kids are engaged and doing activities, but at the same time is providing all that feedback takes pretty much my entire day, because I was on my phone throughout the whole day just providing feedback. And it's just hard to keep it into a specific hour of the day just because there's the need of wanting to provide feedback for them quickly. So just knowing that productive feedback is better than me just making a comment about, hey, great job, thank you for sharing your activity. I also find myself providing feedback for my students that sometimes don't necessarily turn in activities very often, and just giving them like, hey, thank you for turning it in, great job, because I feel that if I'm giving them feedback that as far as going back and editing, it just won't happen. I won't get the activity back. But then again, I do that for half my students, where I notice that giving the assignment back so they can edit and with the feedback that I give them will be productive. I do that. So then I just send that out and like, hey, notice that you left out the second page of the activities, do it again. And they do. And I notice that they also stay engaged when I provide feedback. They turn in the assignment again. And then they also make a comment. So then I know that they're looking at the activity even after they turn it in because of a comment. They're waiting for that feedback. And another thing, as far as feedback goes, I like to do community activities through Seesaw sometimes, as in addition to doing them on Zoom. And it just gives me an idea of where they are mentally. So I get feedback of where they feel they are, like thinking like school is too much, like I'm overwhelmed. And it helps me as far as selecting activities or modifying activities for that week, because I know that students are exhausted as well, just like we are.
So I think as far as feedback, when we got the guidance from ODE about we were no longer going to grade kids, but mostly just record out their participation, I think my mind shifted then and started to realize that the more that I could have contact with these kids, the better. And so I've really tried to target my feedback in such a way that increases the engagement from the student. So for example, if I have a student who leaves me a message about a particular assignment that's been given to them on Seesaw, I will look and I will first comment about how much I appreciate the fact that, you know, hey, look, that was a great story. Did you like hearing about beetles? And I'll say, well, which beetle would you prefer not to, you know, or which beetle is your least favorite? And just get them talking and carrying a dialogue about what they've read. The other thing that I've really had to be careful of is some of my kids are not able to engage with the whole group. And so when I work with those kids, I work with them one-on-one in a Zoom meeting. And when I'm talking with them, it's a little easier to give them feedback in real time. But it's also one of those things in which I want to make sure that I'm giving them enough feedback that they'll still engage, but not so much that they don't want to get back to the whole group. And so it's a gentle balance. And as far as my kids on packets, we are blind until we get those packets back. And because we aren't able to see them but twice, it's really difficult to monitor those kids as well. And so my feedback to them has just been to reach out to their parents and to see if they are engaging in instruction, if they're doing the work and how often, and then just making sure that I post something about you know, the progress that they're making as well, so that they can see that I'm checking in with them. That's it.
Thank you, everybody, for your ideas around feedback. Some really fantastic ideas. Please remember that we have a Padlet where we are dropping in all these ideas, and you'll see ideas from our webinar that we did last week with a different panel. So if you have an idea and you are watching, joining us, or a panelist, please drop your ideas into that Padlet. And we are moving on to Ryan, who's going to kick us off for our next couple of ideas.
Thanks, Katie. We're going to go ahead and talk about office hours, which I'm pretty sure at the elementary level, office hours is not the most natural concept. It's more of a secondary, college, higher education thing. So we're going to talk to a couple of our panelists about what do their office hours look like and what's been working for them. We're going to have Ed, Marissa, and Sandra talk a little bit about that. Sandra, do you want to start us off?
Yes. I do have set hours, but to me, honestly, it doesn't mean a lot. I put those out there for families, but I noticed that my office hours are not necessarily the hours that work for them. So right from the start, I told them these are my set hours. However, you can call me at any time. Just like some of you, the parents that I have in my classroom, they have my personal number and I don't mind. So most of them will call me. I feel that it's easier for them to connect with me through phone calls or it's text messages. Some of them would do it through Seesaw, but just having that as far as office hours for them to be able to contact me whenever they need it really has helped, because for some families it's around 8-9 p.m. For some it's right in the morning and some are throughout the day. So just having my phone with me, I mean, at this point I'm attached to my phone. But I know that if they have questions, I'm there to help them out. And I mean, I use those hours just to connect with parents, and I also use my office hours to connect with students that haven't been turning in assignments, or students that I know are having a hard time just in life in general. So calling them and just checking in. And I guess that's how I use my office hours.
Nice. And there's no rules to office hours. That's the best thing about remote learning, right?
Right.
Marissa, how are you approaching that?
So I work at the same school as Sandra. We work at Bose Elementary. It's a Title I school. And we both work on the dual language side. So I think we both kept that in mind when making these office hours of how to cater to our working class parents and how to make sure it's equitable. So I'm just like Sandra too. I'm always on my phone and parents are emailing me late at night, but I try to keep my office hours for like 2 big Zoom meetings a week with my kinders. I do kindergarten and dual language. So we are practicing a new language and stuff too, and I'm trying to get that target language in there. But I just know with a lot of my parents' schedules, I'm very wary about asking a lot of them. And so my office hours are mainly are those 2 big Zoom meetings for students, and then I have and then just when parents talk to me, I'm available as well as the staff.
Nice. Thanks for sharing. Ed, how about you? What are your office hours looking like?
From the get-go, I think the second day of school was for us our back to school night, for families. And from the get-go, I think I really tried to establish that clear line of communication. But at the same time, I tell my family, like, I wear different hats. I have my teacher hat, which is what I'm, doing now, but I also have my husband hat and I have my dad hat. And, as a dad of a 10th grader at Beaverton High School and a dad of a 7th grader at Rachel Carson, my wife and I both being teachers, we also have other things that we have to do. And so I tell my families, you guys, I always want you to know that I will get back to you as soon as I can. But typically, I really try to say after 4 o'clock, you're most likely going to get a response from me the next morning. And one of the things that I also provide for my families at Findlay is every day from 12 to 12:30, I'm available on Zoom. I will have days where a mom or a dad may call in and may have some questions about a seesaw assignment, or I may have a time where a few kids jump online and they ask those questions. But I think I wanted to make it very clear that because of everything that was going on currently, that I would very much be willing to get back to families as soon as I could. But I also had to draw those lines. It's like when you're teaching your kids, like you draw certain lines where they don't cross. And so I tell my families, like, there are times where I have to also be a husband and a dad to my kids. So I'm not going to get back to you super late at night. It could be that if I get something from you at 8:30 at night, I know, like on my phone, I'll see it, but I won't respond back till, first thing in the morning, 7 o'clock in the morning, 7:30 in the morning the next day. And I felt families, because I really wanted to put that point across the second day of school, that carried over to when we started doing our online learning. So I felt like families already kind of knew what that expectation was. So.
Nice. Well, we got to take care of ourselves as well. Like you really put out there, you've got a lot of hats on there, and making sure that we balance that as best we can. There's no perfect balance right now, but setting the standards out there and just doing the best job you can. I mean, that's what we're all
well, and I
about.
do also want to say, I would as someone who's been an educator for a long time, my approach would most likely be different if I was teaching at a Title I school or at a school where the population was different and I had to adjust. So I do feel like I would very much be willing to be flexible, but in terms of just my own life and things that I do outside of school, I have to also draw those lines. So.
Yeah. Well, it's a good reminder. Like, teachers are humans. Everybody's had that opportunity where they've run into a kid at the grocery store and there's that eye lock and that crazy look of, you exist outside of our classroom. I love that look. It's the best. Thank you all for your insights on that. We're all going to go ahead and move on to perhaps one of the most important topics of this entire current crisis teaching situation, but also something that we should be making a part of our practice in the first place, and that is teacher reflection. I myself personally am noticing that as there's no set schedule anymore, I've got a chance to think about things that I've approached or I'm doing in different ways and different opportunities now that I'm not in a building anymore, at home in a closet or wherever else I might be doing a Zoom. But how about you? We've got a couple of folks that we're going to have talk about their reflection. process and how that's been driving where they've been going next. We're gonna have Ed, Marissa, Tala, and Teresa talk a little bit about that. Teresa, would you like to start us out?
Sure, I'll go ahead. So as far as teacher reflection, I think the biggest thing that I look at in the moment reflection is when I'm doing my Zoom lessons, my small groups with the kiddos, and I take a look and see, am I doing most of the talking? That's not how I teach in the best of situations. So when I'm in a Zoom lesson, I always try to create the lesson in some way that through either PowerPoint or Google Slides where kids can interact with me. They're telling me either to move something or change something. I'm typing in or writing down something. But if I notice that I'm doing most of the talking, I consider that lesson almost like a fail because this is not a lecture time. This is an interactive. I want to hear your input. I want to hear what your thinking is. So I know that for the next lesson or the next time that I meet with these kiddos, I need to change something up. I need to make it somehow different so that they can participate and contribute a little bit more. I also take a look and see how many of the seesaw activities they did complete. Tongue in cheek, I know that they need to complete the district created lessons. And so I do take those into account, but I also have other lessons. I have my read alouds, I have my social emotional learning lessons or activities that I push out to them. We have some from our counselor and our student success coach that are pushed out. And so I take a look at those maybe with a little more weight, simply because I know that those are more personalized for my kids. And so I take a look to see if they are attending to those lessons. And if they don't complete them, then I try to take a look and see, you know, was a story above their heads? Was like the social motion activity not engaging enough? I posted one for the kiddos that was about a Lego minifig check-in. And so they had to move the Lego head to the minifig body to let me know how they were doing for the week. So I created one for one of my favorite things, Minions. So again, something that's engaging for them and something that they like. And again, were they able to complete that? So when I also look at some of the lessons that I push out or that the kids have done district-wise, I also try to take a look to see if they challenge themselves, especially some of my higher learners. Were they able to do something more, or at least what I expect them to do? And so that kind of lets me know whether I need to kind of chat with them in our small group work, or maybe push out another activity for them because they're thinking, oh, this is too easy for me, I got this.
Nice,
so,
nice. Thanks,
yeah.
Teresa.
Yeah.
Tala, would you like to tell us how you're reflecting?
Yeah, absolutely. So one thing that I noticed that has been helpful is you mentioned scheduling, like literally scheduling in time to reflect. So so I'll have like a small group meeting, and then I'll give myself a chunk of time to write notes or like write directly in the Google Slides that I'm using for next time. I also record the lessons. So sometimes if I'm in just like a Zoom fog, I'll like rewatch a little bit and really like look at the kids' faces and see if I'm doing a good job or not based on like how engaged they look. And then the other thing is, thinking critically about who wasn't in my Zoom and reaching out to them directly and saying like, hey, I really missed you today. Are you okay? Would love to see you at the next one. And then the last thing is just asking them. So I'll leave like a minute at the end of our lesson and just ask them, what's something you enjoyed today? What's something you want to see next time? And they're very honest. So it's great.
They are honest, aren't they? And I mean, what a perfect sample group to pull from. Marissa.
Yeah. So my reflection has been mainly around kindergarten and engagement. It's the technology piece has been interesting because they're so young, and the fine motor skills are still developing, and we just learned to cut this fall. So I feel like some of my most engaged students in the classroom are not responding on Seesaw, and because they don't feel successful. It's really challenging and frustrating for them when they can't do it on the screen, and when they can do it on paper usually, and they know that feeling. So I think my reflection is, how are there going to be other ways to other platforms that we can use to engage other students that don't mesh with technology as well as others, SPED, EGC as well. And then my other reflection has just been on parents and how much to ask of them, especially in kinder, because of the balance, and they're so young and they rely on adult support so much that in Title I school as well, I'm just worried about that for next year and how to combat that. So if any suggestions for that, so sorry.
No, I think that parents would love to hear that you're considering their needs and the workload that therapy put on them as well as we move through distance learning. Thanks, Marissa. And Ed.
I'm glad I got to go last because all the great panelists basically took everything I was going to say. You know, to me, just being straight up with my third graders and my families, my parents of them, I feel has been the best approach in terms of just literally asking, how are things going? How have you been feeling throughout this entire process? You know, I send regular emails to my families and I meet with my kids on Zoom every day. And when we have our class meetings, how are things going? What are your peaks and your pits? I think when I saw teacher reflection, I feel like that really can be everything we've talked about today, whether it's office hours, whether it's how you give feedback, whether it's how you are doing your communication. I'm constantly reflecting on all those things all the time. But when it comes down to it, like I want my family, because all of our parents, they have jobs too. And I want to know, how are you feeling? Is there anything that I could be doing better? Are there things that you feel as being on the other side, getting these online lessons? How are things going with your child? And when I'm talking to my own third graders, when we're doing our class meetings, I ask, you know, hey, what are we call it our peaks and our pits. How are you feeling? Who would like to share some of their peaks and their pits? How's the online learning going? I think that really makes it feel genuine. And I do feel like the families know that you really genuinely care. Like you want to know that they're doing well. You want to know what are things that you could get better at that could help them, as well as my third graders too. So
nice. It's and you know, we're asking our parents also to think about they're in brand new situations themselves. So keeping that consideration at the forefront of your reflection and then your conversations is fantastic. Lisa, did you want to add one more thing?
I did, Ryan, if that's okay.
Oh, sorry, Teresa. Yes.
Yeah, that's okay. Yeah, sorry. That reminded me too of one thing that I've been doing is I've been thinking about parents as far as their learning curve, because not only are they having to learn the technology along with the kiddos and stuff like that, but they can't necessarily help their kids with what we're doing either. So I have done like little mini parent videos for parents, keeping it real. I mean, they're not polished. I make a mistake, I just say, hey, it's life, and I keep right on going. But it's kind of, I touch base with the parents and just say, hey, I know this is hard, but you guys are doing great. So I send out some shout outs to them, you know, every so often. But then also if there's something that I think, hey, this is coming up and this might give you some background information about it, I'll create a little video for them and I'll send it out too. So I've actually communicated with parents in short little videos like that too, just to see if hopefully it helps.
That's awesome. And you know what? It's about being personal, not perfect. Not my line. I stole it. Thank you. Thank you, Teresa. Katie, you want to move to the next slide? Okay, and just a quick reminder that we do have really now a growing resource of ideas and suggestions and teacher Twitter contacts and other social media contacts. So if you haven't visited our Padlet, or if you're in there right now, please do take a moment and connect with some of the other educators around the state. Go ahead and connect with some of the ideas that have been put in there. I think there's a really cute puppy in there too somewhere. So if anything, go find that puppy and check her out. She's adorable. Chris, you want to tell us a little bit about the ODE webinar series coming up?
All right, talk to you later.
Hey, friends. Sorry about that. I have to turn my video back on. Yes, as far as the ODE and what we're doing this next couple of weeks is we're really trying to talk to teachers across the state. So hopefully we're going to do it. This is a round 3, but it's not a guarantee yet. But we do have other webinars that are found on the Oregon Education Network. We have one tomorrow we're running, and we're running another one next week. But we want to say thank you to our panelists for hanging out with us today. I don't know if any panelists have any fleeting thoughts or ideas in the background, but this crisis teaching, or I like to call it remote online learning teaching or emergency teaching, is really what we're trying to figure out here. So, and there isn't a manual. I haven't found one yet. So I think we're trying to like write it as we go. So,
Chris, I think you've got a attendee who's looking to have something like this repeated next week for her. So I'll put you in contact with her.
Yeah. And I have a couple teachers from Seaside, we've connected with a few teachers from Seaside. So we're going to try to go ahead and grab some teachers from across the state. Hopefully we'll see what happens. So anyways, with that being said, we're going to go ahead and turn off our live YouTube. And for the participants who are hanging out, you guys hang out for a few more minutes. Don't leave yet. All right.